Hi, and welcome back to another Megiddo Gaming video. Today in our build series for the Trickster Rogue, we're going to be going over gear. Now, I feel gear is most important just because you're going to be tweaking your build. So if you're deficient in one spot, or depending on which mod you're in, where you're at within the game, if you have hunts available, there's going to be a lot of different options for gear that'll either give you the complete best in slot options, or it'll give you the best balance that your character needs in its stats. Now, so far from what we got with our mounts and our companions, this is about what stats they contribute to that. Now, that's very important. The way this character is built is that if your companion ever dies, you're not going to be hurting too bad. You will lose some power, but crit chance can be made up for the fact that we can go into stealth. And we also have not really invested any armor pen into our companion other than what our companion actually gives us. So we'll still be able to hit the 85% that we need in mod 13. For mod 14, that will be able to be made up in the gear that's going to be available in that mod. The other thing about this build is this is kind of a jack of all trades kind of build. So we're trying to make this mostly about single point. But in my testing, you can actually, based on how you switch up your powers, which will be in our next video, you can actually do really well in AoE damage for mobs and then still use single point. So this will help when making your loadouts. It'll be a quick and easy switch. There won't be much tweaking involved. Now, with that in mind, the gear that you choose that can either help you in control or support or DPS, that's going to be dependent on your playstyle. So I'm going to give you the best in slot options that are currently available for maximum damage output. But if you want a well-balanced character, I'm going to give you those options as well. So here's the statistical breakdown of where we want to be. We want to be at 100% crit chance, which is going to require us to be at around 31,000 crit chance. We're going to want to have armor pen that could be 85 to 100%, so we're going to have to be at around 10k or higher. And then as far as recovery goes, you don't want to be less than 8,000, you really don't want to be more than 10,000. Now when it comes to lifesteal, you'll probably only need about maybe a 5% chance of lifesteal. We should be able to get that through our feats and boons. Now with our AP gain and our combat advantage bonus, we want to be sitting around 1400. We should have more than enough AP gain from our mounts, and then our combat advantage bonus damage will mostly be coming from our artifacts as well as the enhancement to our weapon. And then everything else, including power, can kind of be an afterthought, as you will be able to stack power quite easily through buffs and as well as you progress further through the game. Now let's start with artifacts. Artifacts, you're going to hear from a lot of people that you'll want to go with Eye of the Giant or Fragmented Key of Stars. Now, of course, you're going to have the Shard of Orcust Wand, because this is going to be part of our Demon Lord set that we're going to need. And we'll go into the belt and the neck later. The other one that we're going to need is the Sigil of the Devoted. This is going to be key in keeping our rotations going a lot faster, help with our AP gain, and it'll even help us heal. And then in our single point, or when we're dealing with a boss, we're going to be wanting to look at the Soulsight Crystal. Now, you can use a Wheel of Elements, but I definitely recommend getting a hold of the Soulsight Crystal if you can, just because with the Wheel of Elements, when you pop it, someone else may be able to steal the element you're going for, which of course would be fire, to give you that 29% damage boost. So I would definitely recommend going with the Soulsight Crystal and then just swapping your loadout when you're going to get into a boss fight. Now when it comes to overall stats, the Eye of the Giant and the Fragmented Key of Stars is going to be one of your best options. But that's going to make it a little more difficult to tweak your character where you need it to be. So for instance, I don't use either of those. Sometimes, depending on the situation, if I need more armor pen, I may be going with Kessel's Sphere of Annihilation. It really just comes down to what you've done so far to follow this build and how your own personal build is going for you on what you'll want in those stats. Now, one thing you do want to keep an eye on is the amount of combat advantage bonus that it's going to give you, and also if there's any AP gain that it's going to give you. because as we can see, we're already getting more than enough AP gain from our mounts through our insignias. Now let's move on to the neck and waist. Now we have already said that we have to go with the Shard of Orcus wand. We're also going to have to go with Baphomet's talisman, and we're going to have to go with Demogorgon's Girdle of Might. That's going to give us the complete Demon Lord set. Right now this is the best in slot option for Trickster Rogue, and it looks like even in mod 14 this is still going to be the best option to go with. As far as cost goes, I mean, part of this you can get from the campaign, part of this you can get from a drop. So you're going to have to invest a little bit into it, but once you do, so far it looks like there's nothing else you really need to go with. Now the other thing that you want to look at too is that you can use like a dexterity belt and things like that, but really I would just go for the Orcus. Anything that you have plans on doing with your character, just get that part out of the way. Now the jewels that you put into these, and also any other items that take jewels, you don't need any action point gain as we've seen, so now this frees up these slots to add to your stamina gain, which usually becomes kind of an afterthought for us and we don't focus on it. This is going to give us that ability to roll out of situations we need, and can even help us if we decide to go with Gladiator's Guile as one of our insignia bonuses. The shirt and pants really don't make a large difference. You can use the upper primal paints, of course. I'm going to show you here later in the video 2 different options for the build, but yeah, those don't make a whole lot of difference. As far as the reinforcement kits go, unless you're really going to be spending a lot of time that requires Everfrost anymore, it's just to help your item level at this point. Now with weapons, I still run around with the Aboleth set because I kind of boycotted Tomb of the Nine Gods for a while there. Now, one of the things you want to look at is changing its ability to, deal more damage if you're using Duelist Flurry. I find that I'm using Sly Flourish quite a bit, so kind of a preview into our next video about powers. And the other option is to augment, your AP gain or your combat advantage bonus. Those are the 2 that you'd want to choose from when using your cubes of augmentation. I personally have now moved it to the combat advantage bonus, since we're getting plenty of AP gain from our mounts. Now, of course, best in slot weapons would be the Exalted Primal weapons, but I can even do Cradle of the Death God with just my Aboleth set, so depending on if you're really wanting to max out, it's not as important. Now, for all the armor that you wear, some of the armor is going to give you a 14 armor class, and then some of them are just going to give you around an 8. I use the Executioner's Black Attire, which you can get from the Mysterious Merchant in the Stronghold. That does give you 14 AC. Now, a lot of people are using the Fjord Kuno of the Bear, and as far as the head goes, a lot of people are using the Rex Corona. And one thing you'll see is that a lot of the gear that people wear are stuff that you find from hunts. I find hunts to be the most ridiculous aspect of the game, to be honest. And it's a very time consuming with low drop rate due to bad RNG. So you'll probably not see me wearing any hunts gear. So what I'm going to show next is 2 different options to go with. One's the best in slot option, which do require you to do hunts. And the other one, continuing with the tradition of most of these videos, is something that you could buy and or make through Masterwork Professions. So here they are now. This one here is going to give you the most balanced character. And most of this is the Dino Hide Masterwork Profession equipment that you can buy on the trade house and or make yourself if you do have the professions to do so. And when you don't focus on completely maxing out your damage output, it's actually a lot easier to have a more balanced character, because these are the stats that you get when you go with the Masterwork Professions gear. Now the next set is if you go with the Hunts gear, and this is what your stats can come up with. Now the nice thing about the Hunts gear is you can maximize damage output because of the bonuses that come on the gear. Now, depending on the setup you decide to go with, the armor reinforcement kits that you'll be looking at is really just to fine-tune the character. I wouldn't worry too much about them. They only increase power, armor pen, or whatever you choose by 200 points. But if you're just like at 99% resistance ignored, you need to get to 100, then this can definitely help you do that. Now, the reason I wanted to wait till the end of this video to go over the enchantments is because depending on which part you go with, whether you want to maximize everything or just have a well-balanced character, that's going to determine the type of enchantments that you have. Now, one of the key focuses to go with, of course, is the rank 14 demonic enchantments. That's going to help get your crit and your armor pen about where it needs to be. And at some point, you're going to want to switch over to brutals, which are going to give you your crit and your power. Now, as far as defensive slots, we've stated in other videos we're focusing on HP, so we definitely want to go with the rank 14 Radiance. And then in your utility slots, you want at least one rank 14 Quartermaster's enchantment, one rank 14 Dragon Horde enchantment, and one rank 14 Fey Blessing enchantment. All the rest of the utility slots could be rank 14 darks to increase your movement speed. Now, I personally have a whole nother armor set that contains nothing but Quartermaster's enchantments, because one Quartermaster enchantment will allow you to get the drops. Having multiple versions of that enchantment will increase the rate of quality of goods that you get out of the bags that drop from that. So when I want to go to open the bags, I just switch out the armor. It's just junk armor that I put the enchants in, and then that way I can maximize what I get out of those bags. And as you can see from the photos, we had actually gone with the unparalleled versions of the Fey Touched enchantment, as well as the unparalleled Bark Shield enchantment. The Bark Shield has been best in slot for quite some time. The Fey just recently overtook the Vorpal. I am still holding on to my Vorpal in case things change, but right now Fey Touched is the way to go. I know the video ran longer than it usually does, but I tried to get all the information I could in what little time I wanted to fit the video into. So definitely let me know in the comments section below if I missed anything or if you have any questions. Definitely reach out on Facebook or Twitter. As I've said, sometimes I don't get all the YouTube notifications. And stay tuned for next week's video where we're going to be going over powers and rotations. Thanks for watching. Click the left to see the previous video. Click to the right to see another video, and down at the bottom to subscribe. And to stay up to date with what's going on with the channel, follow on Facebook and Twitter.